I recently finished reading an arc of a book called The Empress by Kristin Cast. I'm not going to get into my history with Kristin Cast and Bisan Cast. I've read some of their books before. I have not historically liked them, but I like reading them because, one, unpacking texts that I don't like is weirdly cathartic and also helps me better understand what I do and don't like in writing. Also, I just don't see a lot of conversations around their books, and I think it's important to have conversations about these topics. All that being said, I have a more detailed, rambly, ranty video about this book over on my Patreon, where I was recording updates as I read the book. So if you're interested in something like that, please go check it out. I haven't finished editing it, but as of right now, it is over 2 hours long. Hopefully I can trim it down to below 2 hours, but we shall see. I had a lot of thoughts. There will also be a written review posted on Medium at some point. I haven't written it yet, but I've made some notes and I have some ideas. And if you would like to see me cover other books in a similar fashion, I have a tier on my Patreon. It's tier 3, where you can request that I review specific books. So if that's something that you're interested in, please check that out. And now to the book. First, we're just going to give a general overview of what is this book about. So our main character, Hannah, is down on her luck. After botching a really important pitch at her job and then finding out her boyfriend is cheating on her, she ends up being, through a series of events, she ends up transported to this alternate world via a magical tarot card. When she first arrives in the world, she meets a man named Cain. Initially, she thinks he has kidnapped her because she doesn't understand what has happened. Reasonable, I can't blame her for that. And so she runs away, but then she gets attacked by a mob that thinks she's a witch because she has a flashlight on her phone. Sure. And then Cain saves her from that, and then he's nursing her back to health, and he explains the situation of what is going on, which is that if this tarot card found her and brought her to his world, that means that she is destined to save his world from the corruption in his kingdom. Hannah understandably hears that and is like, press X to doubt. I feel like that's not correct. And the magic of the kingdom made a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here and I should get back to my world. Sure. Through a series of events, they end up gaining entry to the palace by posing as an ambassador and his wife from another kingdom. And they have to like convince people that they are husband and wife and that they are this ambassador. And in doing so, Cain intends to unseat the corrupt influences in the court, and Hannah intends to find her way back to her world. Now on to just some general talking points, because I've gotten through the main concept of the book without the spoilers. I'm going to try and be as spoiler-free in this video as possible. Like I said earlier, spoilers will be on Patreon. First, this book is told in the wrong order. Here I'm going to get into a little bit of stuff, but I don't consider these spoilers because this is stuff from the first 3 chapters of the book. So we open the book with Hannah going into this tarot shop to get a tarot reading done, and that's where she comes upon the card. And by comes upon, I mean the person doing the reading suddenly has this full-on magic, like visible magic moment, and is like, you must take it, and like, you know, that whole thing, and forces the card into Hannah's hand, and then Hannah runs away and is freaked out. That's how the book opens, and then we get Hannah failing at work and finding her boyfriend cheating on her. And I just feel like things were told in the wrong order and things were gone through too quickly. We should have opened with like a pretty typical day for Hannah. Hannah goes to work, she's working on this really important pitch, she's stressed about it, but she really thinks she's got a good pitch campaign put together for this company. She deals with some catty workplace drama. Stephanie, who's a minor female antagonist, kinda, sorta mean girl thing in the book. We'll get to that. So in this typical day, we see Stephanie give Hannah a bit of a hard time, is a bit mean, and we could establish in that context, because this is something that is not established in the book but would have made things make more sense, we could establish that Hannah is really good at the mental work of pitch campaigns and marketing and all that, but Stephanie is really good at the social aspect of it, which is where you're actually talking to people and delivering the campaign. She's good at public speaking. And we could have established at the very beginning this dynamic of Hannah does all the actual thinking and planning and work, and then Stephanie just presents it to the clients and she gets all the accolades and praise and benefits for it. And that would have made me feel a lot more for Hannah in the following scene where she fails the pitch. So we have this normal workday, and then we could have her maybe texting with her boyfriend and he's too busy and isn't ready to hang out with her that evening, but like requests a bunch of stuff from her. And so she's doing stuff as he asks, even though he doesn't have time to hang out with her, but he has time to ask her to do this, that, and the other thing. And then we could have, you know, her go to this tarot shop maybe while she's running errands for her boyfriend, and then get the card. And then we have like a little bit of a foundation of who this character is and what she's dealing with. And then we get into the next day where she fails the pitch, finds out her boyfriend's cheating on her, yada, yada, yada. And then we would have more of a like grounded understanding of what is going on in this character's life, rather than just opening the book and like, I don't know who this person is. I don't know why she cares about this pitch that's coming up at work. I don't even know what the pitch is. I don't even know what her job is. And then we're like, when we do see her at work, we don't have any context for her work relationships. We don't have any context for her goals. Like, it would just make a lot more sense if we'd slowed down and done more in the beginning in her world. I also want to comment on the fact that most of the marketing that I've seen for this book, like the sort of Facebook infographics and like bullet point posts about this book, it's either misleading or outright like incorrect. So one of the points about the book is it's about like, it's marketed as the main male character is, and I quote, a ruthless battle-scarred warrior with a dark past. That is not true. That is not true. He's battle-scarred. I guess he's ruthless, but we don't really see that. Like, we see him fight twice, kind of, at like early in the book. In both scenes, he's attacking people who are attacking an innocent person. Like, he kills people who are attacking an innocent person. So, like, his role, as he says, is the protector of the realm. So that's just him doing his job. So, like, I don't know. And the dark past thing is, like, I won't get into the specifics of it, but his dark past is that he got banished because he got betrayed. It's not that he actually did something wrong and got banished, or, like, the wrong that he did isn't actually morally a bad thing. It just happens to not be allowed in the context of this world. Again, I'm trying not to get into spoilers, but it's not, I would not say that this is a character with a dark past. It's also marketed as he's morally gray. Again, as I said, he kills some people, but it's people who were attacking an innocent person. So he's a defender of the innocent. That's not really morally gray. And the only other thing I can think of that would make him morally gray is he's kind of an asshole. But that's not morally gray. That's just an asshole. The book is also marketed as a fake marriage romance, which technically, but it's less, the crux of the conflict or like the tension is less that they're pretending to be married, and more specifically that they are pretending to be a very specific married couple. They are masquerading as an ambassador and his wife. So it's not that they have to pass as married, it's that they have to pass as these specific people. So like marketing it as a fake marriage story is like not really accurate. This book is also marketed as high heat. I would not call this book high heat at all. There's 3 actual sex scenes, and then there's a few other like suggestive or sensual scenes, but like the sex scenes are not that graphic. They're also really forgettable. I would say these are sex scenes by rote. It uses a lot of very standard phrases and sequences that you see in like smut commonly. I'd say on a scale of 1 to 5, this is a 2, maybe a 2.5. Like there's smut in it. It's not smutty, but I would not call it high heat. Like, if you say high heat, I'm expecting like a 4 or a 5 on the scale, right? And it is absolutely not there. So yeah, a lot of the marketing for this book is just not accurate. Even calling it a tarot-inspired world is like I was expecting there to be a lot more going on with tarot in this world, especially with the magic system, which I'll touch on in a minute. But it's really just set dressing. Like, the kingdoms are named after major arcana, and there's aesthetic elements relating to the whatever arcana of the kingdom they are in. And some people are named after cards, and that's kind of it. It's really not explored that much. Tarot doesn't matter. Like, actual tarot cards and tarot readings don't matter outside of that very, very, very first scene in the book. It doesn't come up again. For context, one of my favorite animes, like most nostalgic favorite animes of all time, is Cardcaptor Sakura, which is based on tarot, Japanese interpretation of tarot, but it's based on tarot. And like, this doesn't touch anywhere near that realm of like incorporating tarot into a magic system, which is extremely disappointing. I wanted magical cards. I wanted a magic system based around tarot cards, and it's not there. What we do get for the magic system is, I don't know. We get a little bit of information regarding like how magic is passed down and the general view of magic in the kingdom. But that's it. We don't get any information about what kind of magic is possible, what are the limitations on magic, what are the costs on magic. Like, I have no idea what magic can and can't do, and like what sacrifices need to be made for magic, what can be gained through magic. I have no idea. My basement is cold, I'm putting on a sweater. So not only does the magic system like not go anywhere with the idea of tarot-based magic, it doesn't go anywhere with any concept of what the magic is. We literally see 3 kinds of magic used outside of the like one magical tarot card. That's it. That's all we see is like 3 examples of kinds of magic, and it's only from 2 people. So I genuinely have no idea. I guess we technically see a 4th kind of magic. But I have no idea like what role magic plays in this world. This lack of understanding of how magic works and what its like limitations and stuff are is especially detrimental to the climax of the book, because there's a character using magic in like a very significant and important way, and it is entirely determining how events are unfolding in the climax. But I have no context for how this character is using this magic. What is the cost to using this magic? What is the risk to using this magic? What is the limit to using this magic? Like, I don't know. And so like nothing feels like a payoff. I don't feel any real tension. I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess they can do that. Like, I guess there's 2 characters who use magic. The 2 characters with magic use magic in the climax, and like in both instances, I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. Another really, really big issue with this book is that all of the characters, every single character, feels very flat. Even Hannah and Cain, who are the most important characters, they have the most on-screen time, they are just really flat and hollow. I know very little about Cain as a person. He's just Broody McBruderson. And even Hannah, our narrator, who we spend the entire book with, I don't really know anything of value about her other than she's bad at everything and kind of hates herself and is miserable. Like, that's really it. I don't know what her passions are. I don't know what makes her excited. I don't know what makes her happy. I don't know what she does to relax or what she takes comfort in. I don't know who her childhood best friend was. I don't know any super positive memories she has. I don't know any super traumatic memories she has. Like, I don't really have any sense of who this character is outside of her immediate context in the story, which doesn't work very well. It makes it really hard to have a story that's about a character coming into herself and coming into her own strength and power when I know fuck all about the character. This also leads to, I think this is a attached problem, but there's no chemistry between Cain and Hannah, which, like, it's hard to have chemistry between characters when the characters are flat, right? But yeah, all the scenes between them, it's just like them making innuendo at each other and lots of descriptions about how hot Cain is and lots of descriptions about how electric his touch is, and like that's kind of it. They technically banter, I guess, but it's not good banter. The innuendo is not good. I will say that I will give one detail because it makes me... There's a scene where like Hannah's in a bath and Cain walks in when she's in a bath and she was eating pomegranate and she drops the pomegranate and she's like, oh no, my pomegranate. And Cain, looking at her chest, is like, I see 2 ripe pomegranates right here. And I'm like, no, stop. Going back to Hannah being a miserable character, Hannah is just so easy to dislike from very early on in the book. One of the first things we get from her in like chapter 2 of the book is girl hate. Oh, my least favorite. It's my least favorite. She just has a lot of very like, it's hard to describe or like really articulate, but the tone of the descriptions and the context in which she's giving the descriptions of Stephanie feels very like sneering or irritated or like right, which isn't helped by the fact that every time she says anything about Stephanie, the narration pauses to go, fucking Stephanie, like immediately from the moment Stephanie is introduced. There's an example of Stephanie being described as like her smile was as fake as her swollen lips, which is like, there's many layers of girl hate and body shaming attached to this, and it's shaming the idea of women altering their appearances and women like, it just, it's not good, especially because in the context of the scene, Hannah is pitching to a company that sells beauty products to women, and she's sneeringly describing a woman who uses beauty products. Make it make sense. We also get descriptions once Hannah's in the world. She's like in a tavern very briefly, and like her only descriptions of women in the tavern are kind of judgy. So we get their boobs spilling out over the tops of their corset dresses, and another woman is described as her nipples dangerously close to slipping out. Like, that's the only description we really get of these women. Point is, the way Hannah describes other women feels judgy and uncomfortable, and I just don't like the tone of it. Even outside of that, though, Hannah, there's multiple instances of Hannah just hating on short men for no reason. She keeps referring to short men as hobbits, and not in like a cute or endearing way, like in specifically an insulting way. Context, I'm 4'10" and my dad is 5'2", so when people insult short people, I get mad. Makes it really hard to like Hannah when this is how she talks about other people. There's this whole thing where it's trying to establish Stephanie as catty and mean. And so she makes a comment about like, it's so sweet that you want to be a savior of the working class or whatever to Hannah about her campaign idea. And Hannah in her narration is like, I'm not a savior of the working class and I've never wanted to be, which we'll get to that. But it also, like, for that to be in chapter 2, it's just not a great tone from the main character, where like a better response would have been, what's wrong with wanting to help the working class? Getting into that though, the book is really wildly inconsistent about Hannah's like backstory and goals. In chapter 2, we're told that Hannah has been working unpaid overtime for 3 years specifically to get this opportunity to pitch directly to a company to earn a VP position at her job, and that this is the kind of opportunity she's been dreaming about since college. She went to college for this. Then in chapter 11, she says that she went to college with the hopes of working for a nonprofit, and that life got in the way of her dreams and she ended up working at this marketing like brand company instead, which is very different. And then in chapter 19, Hannah claims that she has never had big plans or detailed plans for the future, which obviously can't be true. Like, in either of the previous examples, that can't be true. Either she went to college with specific dreams of working for a nonprofit, and that fell apart, in which case she had big dreams, or she went to college and worked 3 years of overtime to get this opportunity to be a VP directly pitching to companies, and flubbed that, which would be a really big detailed plan. Right, like either way, she had big plans for her future and the book just forgot. This lack of clarity of Hannah's character is also shown again in the climax, where none of her actions or decisions in the climax feel reflective of like lessons she's learned or skills she's gained, or even her like embracing things that she did know, or she was able to do, like skills she did have. It doesn't feel like a payoff or a resolution to anything. It's just like shit happened and she was there. In terms of the world building, this world feels, the best I can say is that it feels like kind of hollow and empty. Like I don't really have a sense of what is in this world aside from there is a palace and vaguely outside the palace there's some sort of city, village, not sure about the size of the settlement, um some sort of Yolden settlement with people who are poor. That's really all I've got in terms of the world. Like, that's it. And even like the politics are really shallow. The issue with the politics is there's two antagonists where their goals are wrapped up in the politics and the corruption in the court. But I don't know why. Like, I understand what they're doing and what effect it's having, but I don't know why. Like, what's their end goal? What are they getting out of this other than, I guess, being in control? Like, what do they want to be in control for? What are they getting? I would have been fine if the explanation was even as simple as they are redirecting the wealth of the kingdom away from the common people to themselves. I would have accepted that as an answer, but I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And that just, again, makes all of the tension in the book kind of fall flat because I don't know why characters are doing what they're doing. I don't understand the risks and benefits and consequences and like anything. And in terms of like the setting and world building more broadly, or I guess the palace specifically, so not more broadly, but the palace specifically, it's really just take a castle and give it a color scheme. Like, that's kind of it. The world building is an aesthetic. It's not really, it doesn't feel like a real place. I would also say that the writing is middling to poor. Like, there were a few moments where there was like some description or metaphor that I did enjoy, but for the most part it was like just kind of meh. It felt very like YA paranormal protagonist circa mid-2000s, not in a good way. There were a lot of crutch words. One, again, going back to the aesthetic and color scheme, there's a lot of crimson and velvet and gold and crystal, like a lot. Even in just in terms of like language used, I'm gonna read a list because there's a lot. Lush, rich, ornate, cascade, honey, swollen, like those words are used a lot. And it's fine to have words that you repeat and to have certain like go-to words for certain settings or situations or whatever, but like these words are used enough that I noticed they were used a lot, which is a problem. I shouldn't be noticing that, like, man, this author sure does like the word lush, and it just ends up feeling like this book needed more. I know this is an arc, but it really feels like this book needed a few more editing passes to like really clarify and tighten the writing and make the descriptions feel less like a word salad of go-to descriptions and more like actual places and, right? Like, I don't know how to articulate it, but it all felt very samey. Every time we entered a room, it was the same room. Some other points of interest, this isn't direct critique of the book, but it's just like some things to be aware of going into it. Anyone who would pick up this book because they like Kristin Cast's other work, specifically Kristin Cast's work that's co-authored with PC Cast or co-authored with PC Cast in the case of the House of Night series. If you don't know, she didn't co-author it, she edited it. She's not a co-author on that book at all. She didn't co-author any House of Night books. If you're going into this book with your expectations for Kristin's writing being based on her co-authored work with her mom, you might be expecting a book that has like a fair amount of like queerness in it. This book does not. The closest we get to queer rep is there's a blink and you'll miss it reference to a character who says, like, it's an older man who says he used to moonlight as Miss Candy Bush at the Pussycat Club, which, like, it's never, no one, there's no further comment or explanation. That's the entire context we get. So he was maybe a drag queen, I think. Unclear, and that's all we get for possible maybe-ish queer rep in this whole book. I also want to note, as much as this book is marketed as a high heat romance, and I know some of the graphics did market kink for this book. There's an infographic specifically marketing the fact that Kane ties Hannah up at one point in this book. This book has kink shaming in it. This book specifically shames and vilifies a male character for having a degradation kink. So if you are reading this book specifically seeking a kinky romance, be aware that one, there's only one scene with kink in it. There's one scene where Hannah gets tied up. And two, other kink is shamed and vilified in this book. So be aware of those elements. And that's kind of all I have to say about this book. It was both too long and too short. Not a lot happened. And it just, in every direction, it felt very hollow and kind of by rote, and like it was following a formula or following a set of tropes, but also not actually engaging with the tropes it's marketed as having. So just very poorly handled in all directions. I gave it a 1 star. I had hoped I could maybe give it a 2 at least. I didn't expect to like it, but I was hoping I could maybe give it a 2 and it would just be like, this book isn't for me, but it's for someone. But, and I mean, I can understand that there are people who are going to like this book, but I can't even recommend it for people who like specific tropes or specific writing styles or what have you, because of the girl hate and because of the kink shaming and because of the short man hate. I just can't in good conscience recommend a book that has that in it. That is all my thoughts on this book for this video. Again, if you want more details and more spoilers and more ranting, go to Patreon. Also keep an eye out for, at some point I will put a link below when I have that Medium written review posted. And I also have all my other social medias linked below. I need to remember to put my Blue Sky link there. I just got a Blue Sky today. If you made it to the end of the video, please comment a either playing card emoji or like a crown emoji. I feel like those are going to fit the best for this. And thank you for watching. And hopefully I read better books in the future. I say laughing knowing I have another arc I'm probably not gonna like.